What's up, everybody? Back at you with another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video, definitely leave a comment, and don't forget to hit that notification button so when we drop a video, you catch it. We don't want you to miss it. So the thumbnail says, gambling with the feds. What do you mean, Chad, by gambling with the feds? We're going to talk about a case, man, a guy that I was with, a guy that I had helped with his case. I'll probably read a little bit of it so you can get an idea. But it isn't just about this guy. Gambling with the feds is so much more, so much bigger, right? When you're out there on the block and you're hustling, what are you doing? You're out there selling bags of dope, bags of fentanyl. People are dying. You're out there selling crack. Might be out there carjacking. Whatever you're doing, you're gambling with the feds. You're gambling with the state. But mostly, when you're out there selling big drugs and you got a pistol on you, or even if you're selling fentanyl and you got a pistol on you, you're gambling with the feds. Your life is at risk. You know, I said this before in videos that I ask people, how much is your life worth? So let's say you're out there on the block and you're hustling and you got $2,500 worth of heroin in your pocket or fentanyl. Your life is worth $2,500 because you're taking so many chances with it. You're taking a chance of going to prison. You're taking a chance of dying. You're taking a chance of someone buying that fentanyl, and we're going to do a video on this too, and overdosing. You have no idea how many people I've seen in federal prison, or how many times a family member calls me and says, hey, my son got 30 years for a drug overdose case. You know, he was just a drug addict himself, and he got some drugs from somebody and gave it to someone else, and he made $10, $15 on the deal, and now he's got 30 years in the feds. Yeah. When people die from fentanyl overdoses, they don't play no games. They will lock your ass up and throw away the key. I promise you that. That's gambling with the feds. We're going to talk about this kid named Omar Spearman. You know, anybody that was in Big Sandy, they know who O is. Omar Spearman from Michigan. I think he was from Flint. Almost positive he was from Flint. He was just a young man. Got arrested. Had a drug conspiracy. And there's these murders in this case that are out there, right? But the government doesn't have the best of evidence. Their evidence is a little shaky. So they tell Mr. Spearman, you know what? We got this stuff on the back burner. But what we'll do is we'll let you cop out. We're going to let you cop out to 25 years. Or 20 years. I believe it was 20 years. You cop out to 20 years, you do about 17, and you get to come home. You'll be about 37, maybe younger with good time, but you'll get out of prison, Mr. Spearman. So Omar takes the deal, cops out, goes to federal prison, and he runs into a jailhouse lawyer, one that doesn't really know what he's doing. And he tells Omar, man, I can help you. We're going to file a 2255, a post-conviction motion, and we're going to get you out of jail. So Omar's all for it. They made a mistake. Here's the mistake. He outlines it for him. They file the 2255, and guess what? He wins. Omar Spearman wins his case. Or did he really lose it? That's what I'm talking about, gambling with the feds. Sometimes you get jailhouse lawyers that won't tell you everything. They don't tell you, yeah, you can win this issue, but if you win, you're also facing this, and they can blast you on it. So anyway, long story short, Omar Spearman wins his case, and the government says, you know what? We gave you a deal. We got these murders out there. But you want to gamble? We're going to re-indict you now. And we're going to re-indict you for the murders. And we're going to take you to trial. We might win. We might lose. But if we win, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. You're never going to get out. So let me read you just a little bit of this, right? Omar took the gamble. He's been in prison 30 years now. They resentenced him to life. Spearman was originally indicted in April 1991, along with two co-defendants on 4 drug and firearm charges. He pleaded guilty in October 1991 to 1 count of dealing in firearms without a license and 1 count of conspiracy to distribute cocaine. Spearman was sentenced on January 16, 1992. Think about that. January 16, 1992. Think about how long that was. Think about, what you were doing back then, if you're older. Think about the fact that you weren't even born yet. Spearman was sentenced on January 16, 1992 to a total of 240 months in prison and 5 years of supervised release. He challenged his conviction and sentence in a 2255 motion alleging ineffective assistance of counsel. Following a hearing, the district court granted the motion. That was the worst thing that could have ever happened in Omar's life, for that judge to grant that 2255. A superseding indictment handed down in March 1995 added a count charging the drug-related murders of 2 persons and 2 counts of using firearms in relation to felony drug offenses. A second superseding indictment listed the 2 murders as separate counts and added a count charging Spearman with engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise, CCE. Spearman was convicted by a jury of CCE. Wow. Think about that, right? So Omar Spearman gets 20 years. He has to do 17. I think he was, 21, 22 years old at the time. He'd have been about, with good time, he'd probably been about 34, 35 years of age. And he would have got out of prison. He had his whole life ahead of him. But he gambled. He gambled. He gambled, and the government, like we just read, handed down a superseding indictment. They re-indicted him for the murders that they told him, we got these, but we're giving you a break. And Omar ends up going to trial. And in February 1996, after a month-long trial, I'm going to read some of this, a jury found him guilty on the following charges: participation in a criminal enterprise, 2 counts of drug-related murder in violation of 21 U.S.C. 848, 2 counts of firearm use during a drug offense, conspiracy to provide false statements. And they sent him to prison for the rest of his life. But what does the judge tell him when he sentences him? He says, Mr. Spearman, your offenses are of a particularly serious nature. You've exhibited no concern at all for human life. You're obviously an extremely violent person. You have been involved yourself as a leader in a continuing criminal enterprise. I think really you sort of glorified in the fact that you are a leader in a criminal operation in the crime scene here in this community. As I go through the record, I refer to some of my recollection of some of the testimony involving violent instances in which you were involved that aren't even part of the pre-sentence report here. The shooting incidents which led to your conviction are counts 3 and 4. That is count 3 being the murder of Joaquin Parker. Penny Farrett was particularly horrible. There was testimony in the case that there were 18 bullet holes, including ingress and egress holes in the body of Joaquin Parker, and that there were 2 9mm or 2 10mm rounds in him. Penny Farrett had 3 holes in her body, 2 in her back, including a 10mm round inside her. In addition, of course, there was the attempt to kill the 3rd person in the automobile on that occasion. Fortunately, she survived and was able to present the eyewitness identification of yourself as being one of the shooters that committed these despicable acts. And the judge talks about more of this stuff, right? So if you're a young man out there right now, ask yourself, are you gambling with your life? What comes with the drug trade? We see it every day, man. People are murdered every single day. There's always a beef when you're selling dope. There's always an issue. And sometimes you have to protect the image that you project. Don't ever forget that. You have to protect the image that you project. So if you're in that life and you're in the street and someone violates you, other people will violate you, right? Because they're going to say, oh man, dude's soft, man, we do whatever. Like robbing people, right? Like, man, we can rob that dude. He got robbed, he ain't do nothing. So they rob you again. And then they rob you again. So really you're in the drug game for no reason. Unless, of course, you're willing to protect the image that you project. That is that tough guy image. Yo, I'm getting money. I'm a street dude. I'm about that business. Someone violates you, you go back and kill them. And now you're in the position that Mr. Spearman was in. You're gambling with the feds, man. You're gambling with your life. And you're playing a game where very few people win. The government wins almost all the time. And you hear people say, oh, well, they got a 99% conviction rate because, people always cop out. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to relate it to Mr. Spearman. Or they say, oh, man, everybody's telling, man, that's why. But if people weren't, listen, man, in the business that you're in, it's to be expected. People telling on you is part of that game. It's to be expected. That's what they're going to do. And you might be sitting in prison like Mr. Spearman. So we're going to talk about that gamble, right? They got a 99% conviction rate, and that's because everyone pleads guilty. But look at Mr. Spearman. He pled guilty. He had a 20-year sentence. 240 months is 20 years. He was going to prison for 20 years, and he was still going to get out at 34 or 35 years old. And now he's been in prison for 30 years. He's been in prison since 1991. And when I met Spearman, I met him in Big Sandy. They called him Big O from Flint. Real respectful dude, laid back, had all the money. He was doing his thing in prison. It's not a secret. And, a bunch of stuff happened. He ended up getting transferred. He was that dude in Big Sandy. He was from Flint, Michigan. He was that dude. Real respectful dude, had plenty of money. And eventually, man, that hustle ran out. And I ran into him years later when he was struggling to have hygiene products, man. He went from being this dude with all this money in prison, had the staff members in the chokehold, to going to the store with like $20 every 2 weeks, $15. Couldn't even get commissary hygiene items at some points in his life. And now I heard that he's sick, and some people seen him a couple years ago. He was in a wheelchair, and he wasn't in good shape. Let's just put it that way. But he gambled. He gambled. He knew that those crimes were out there, right? No real direct evidence on him. Some people testified on him, one of his cellmates. But he knew they were out there. Omar knew what he did or what he didn't do. I'm not saying what he did. I mean, this is a 30-year-old case. But he knew what was out there, and he decided to gamble. When in reality, he should have folded his hand. He should have folded his hand when he had a 20-year sentence. He should have pushed the cards together, shuffled them up, and put them on the table and walked out. But he didn't. And because he didn't, he's going to die in prison. And that's what the message is, man. What is your life worth? Are you gambling right now? Are you gambling at a game that you cannot win? Or is this a game that you think you can win? Think about it. How many drug dealers have you seen retire? Seriously. All that shit you've seen in the movies back in the day, or them old movies, Tony Montana. This shit's over with, man. This shit's for the birds, man. You ever watch that series? What is it, Snowfall? Go watch that, man. The real Rick Ross, right? Go watch that. Look at that life. Look what that life does for you. It's a hell of a gamble, man. Do you want to be like Omar Spearman? Do you want to gamble with your life? Or gamble with your life like so many other people that are out there gambling right now? And I look out the window, I look to the side. Because that's life, man. What is real life about? Think about it. What is real life to you? If it's the life that you're living, then live it. But know that there are consequences on the other side. Know that the federal government plays no games. Know that they will give you a life sentence and throw away the key. They don't care that you're 21 years old. They don't care that your mother is sick. They don't care about any of that stuff. They don't care about the fact that you had a hard life. A lot of people have hard lives. And sometimes I drive through the city where I'm at, and I see all these people at 4 or 5 o'clock leaving work, lawyers and judges, and I see these big construction companies and all these affluent people, all these people that run my city. And for real, my city is one of the armpits of America, if you ask me. These are all the people that run the city, right? And I guess you could say they deal with all the undesirables, right? They leave work in the city and they drive to their home out in the suburbs. And the city still bangs. It's just a sad reality that you see so many kids, man, every day in the news. I think we just had a 15-year-old kid shot. Maybe he's going to die. Last week, we had 3 people shot. One was shot in the head. He's dead. The other one was shot, I think, in the back of the head. He's dead. Another one was shot. All at this same little party. They went to this party and they gambled with their lives, man. You won't catch me at a party in my city. You won't catch me at no stripper party. Because that's what it was. It was a stripper party with a bunch of street dudes, chicks in there, shaking their ass. Everybody's having a good time. And then the good time's over with forever when someone shoots you in the head, man. It's the gamble. You want to fold your cards? You want to fold your cards, man, and pass, knock on the table, man. Find something else. Because if you can sell drugs, then you're a businessman. You're just in the wrong business. And I say that because I remember my prosecutor said that during my trial. He said Chad Marks was a good businessman, but he was in the wrong business. And you're probably in the wrong business. Get out of it. Find something else. I promise you. At the end of the day, it's not worth the gamble, man. It's not worth you gambling with your life. You're taking your life and throwing it out in the wind. And you're just letting it float in the wind until it finally hits the ground. And when it hits the ground, you're in a prison somewhere. And you can't even buy soap and deodorant. All the money you got right now, all the things you're doing, the life that you're living, the money you got stacked, you're probably going to spend all that on a lawyer. You might spend it on commissary for the first 4 or 5 years. But once it's gone, it's gone. Once you hit that cell block, all your friends, they're gone. It's just you, man. It's just you looking at yourself in the mirror. It's just you rubbing your face, saying, man, what did I do? How can I get out of here? It's not my decision to make. It's yours. All I can do is bring you the message. You gonna fold your cards? I hope so. Until tomorrow, man, with respect, Blood on the Razor Wire TV, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share this video because someone needs to see it. With respect, I'm out until tomorrow.